Has it ever struck you how strange it is that the past and the future simply does not exist? That your entire life experience happens right now, in the present moment? That this thing called the future never actually arrives? By the time it arrives, it's still now? And this thing called the past never returns, never comes back up again. It has been and gone, disappears into the rearview mirror forever. And how curious it is that we can be in so much pain and suffering, emotional turmoil, psychological turmoil, held hostage in many respects by this past and by this future. And the purpose of this talk is to show you that this pain and suffering is entirely unnecessary and can be dropped, can be dissolved, quite safely, quite simply, by recognizing that the past and the future is a product only of imagination and is not real at all. Now we have to get practical with this because obviously this throws up many questions, but just to begin with, just see if it's possible to bring your mind fully into the present moment. Just see if that's possible. Now immediately this presents a challenge, because the moment we try to bring ourselves fully into the present moment, our mind starts to wander off to the future or back to the past, and the mind, doing what it does naturally, starts to say, okay, but, or okay, but now what? Or yes, okay, I'm present, and now what? What happens now? Well, herein lies the trap. Herein lies the trap. So just for now, I'd like to encourage you to stay fully present. And when the mind starts coming in with yes, but, just do not follow this thought. And you will find this quite easy. It's quite simple. Just don't follow this thought. When it comes in with yes, but, or now what, or or I don't have time for this, or I'm bored, or any of these thoughts, just allow these thoughts to come and go, and do not follow. Do not follow the thought down the rabbit hole, because that's how we get tied up and caught in our ruminations about the past and our worrying about the future. So just for now, simply trying to stay entirely in the now, whilst also accepting that the mind will continually attempt to pull your attention to the past and to the future, and this is fine. As your practice in trying to find a little more inner peace continues, the mind will quieten and will cease to have its power to claw you away from the present into the future and into the past. Now let's begin by examining the past, which is potentially your favourite hobby. Most people's favourite hobby is analysing the past, their own personal history, and analysing their own personal story. But let's have a little agreement here that we have no stories now. No stories at all. Just drop any and all stories. All you are allowed is the observation and perception of this present moment. So no stories. Drop it. Drop your story. Stop telling it. Shut the book. Put the book away. Now let's take a look at this. Where is your past? Where is it? I mean, you can't stop thinking about it. You bring it up all the time. it causes you a lot of pain. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of regret, a lot of sadness, a lot of wondering how things would have been if things had been different, if you'd only have done this. I should have done this, I could have done this, I shouldn't have done this, that's another one. If only I hadn't done this, if only this hadn't happened, blah blah blah, so on and so on and so on. This endless rumination on things that have simply been and gone, never to return. So as this thing is clearly so important, let's take a look at it. Where is it? Where is it? Your personal history. Where is it? Bring it out. Let's see it. Now take a look around. Can you see it? Can you hear it? Can you smell it? And I don't mean the evidence of the past. I mean, where is the actual past? Everything in your life that has been and gone, all of these previous events. And I don't mean photos, which is just evidence of the past, or anything around that is the result of the past. I mean the actual past. Let's look for it. Where is it? Does anyone else have it? Does it exist in a bank somewhere? Has it been put somewhere, put away? No, of course it's not. And when put like that, how ridiculous that seems. And yet we act like it is in a vault somewhere. We feel like everybody's looking at it and everybody is analysing it. Well, trust me, nobody else cares in the slightest, not at all. So where is it? Now you may quite reasonably conclude that, okay, I understand this. However, my past does exist in my mind as memory. Sure, granted. However, let us consider for a moment that memory is only a thought, and a feeling, and an emotion. Maybe a very strong thought, maybe a very strong feeling and emotion. However, that's it. That's it. You cannot help memories resurfacing, feelings resurfacing from the past. Sure, these will come and go. However, that is all that it is. And nobody else has it. Your personal history exists nowhere else in the universe other than in your mind. Now, this should provide you with a huge sense of relief. Because if it's only in your mind, it is only you that is bothered by it. Now, other people also may have memories of you and of events involving you. Sure, granted. However, they have shown this in study after study after study that everybody remembers every event completely differently. And no matter what the event is, and you may think that everybody remembers it in exactly the same way, they simply don't. There are events and things that have happened that have enormous significance for you that other people simply would not be able to recall because it had no significance whatsoever. So it's a trap to feel like everybody has experienced the past in the same way, even if it was the same event, the same experience. You were all involved in the same thing that happened. Everybody comes away with a completely different image and interpretation of the event. So in this way, you can understand that your personal history is entirely yours. It only exists in your mind. Even if you feel other people have certain judgments of things, of the way you behaved, of things that you did, of things that you didn't do. You have absolutely no way on earth of knowing what their interpretation of your past actions is. So drop it. Drop it. Let's take a little look at some of the common causes of pain and suffering that are unnecessary, that reside entirely in the past. Guilt. Now that is a very heavy feeling. Guilt. And we must acknowledge that we feel guilt for a reason. We feel shame for a reason, because without it we would simply continue to repeat the mistakes of the past. Of course, granted. However, many people are stuck in guilt, and very difficult to let go of something that they have done in the past that is causing them enormous suffering, because if they could go back and do it again, they would do it a different way. Well, there you go. That tells you everything you need to know. If you have that guilt, then you have learned everything that you needed to learn from that experience. And now that guilt can be dropped. Don't worry, you will not repeat it. If you wouldn't do it today, then that's it. Then that really is the end of that. If it's something you've done that that if you could, you would go back and do it again, then it is done. You can leave that guilt aside. Same goes for shame. Same goes for regret. You feel you should have done something different. You didn't do something and you felt you should. You feel like you missed an opportunity somewhere. Well, it didn't happen that way, did it? It just didn't. And now it can be dropped and left. Because what really is important is what you do today. Is what you choose to do with your time today. Because today is all there is. There is no yesterday. It's not even that yesterday has been and gone. It simply doesn't exist. It's not there. Drop it. Drop it. I guarantee other people are not judging you nearly as harshly about your past as you are. You are your own worst judge. You are your own most critical judge about your personal history. Trust me, nobody else cares. Now, perhaps there are some things that you may need to apologize for or somehow make amends for. Well, that's fine. But sooner or later, you simply need to drop it. Because the past is like the wake of a ship. It simply dissolves away into nothingness. So you may as well let it go now. It is only by feeding it with this idea of this significance and this importance that you're attaching to these past events, that your guilt, that your shame, that your regret is amplified. And this is what drags you down. It holds on to you because you're holding on to it. So let go and it loses its power. The past has no inherent power to harm you. If you drop the significance and drop the importance, then it loses its power over now. Now, we must also take a look at, well, what about my pleasant memories? What about things that I remember fondly? Well, these aren't going anywhere. These aren't going anywhere, but in a strange, funny, roundabout sort of way, even pleasant memories can be the source of discomfort in the present moment. Because we feel like, oh, if only I could go back to this time, I was happy back then. I was happy back when this happened, when that happened, and now in the present moment, no, it's different now. I was happier back then. So although even the pleasant memory can evoke some feelings of joy and happiness, it also contains within it the seed of suffering. Now, memories will always be there, and they will continually resurface, but what is important is not to follow that memory. Now, you may remember things fondly, and this may inform your choices about how you would like your life to move and what you would like your life to look like. That's fantastic. That's not going anywhere. You can relax. You're not going to forget any important information. You're not wiping your mind and just making it entirely blank. All of these significant events will still hold their images and their feelings. But if you wish to bring yourself into the present moment, don't give so much importance and so much significance to past events. All of humankind is hung up on past events. We feel like everything important happened in the past, and what is happening today is somehow less important. No. What is happening today is the most important thing. What you choose to do today, that is significant. The past has been and gone, never to return. You are free, powerful, and able at any moment to simply let go. Now you may say, practically, I understand all of this, it makes total sense, however, how? How do I do this? Because I try to let go of the past, and it just seems to come back stronger, and I'm consistently plagued by these negative memories, traumatic memories, stressful memories. I understand this, and it is not about dishonoring the past or dishonoring the events that have happened. Maybe some quite terrible things have happened. How can you try to let go of something? The act of letting go is essentially a passive action. Holding on too tightly to something takes effort and energy. And to let go simply requires doing nothing at all. Similar to the curious paradox of trying to relax. I mean, really try hard to relax. Try your hardest to relax, or trying to sleep. The harder you try, the harder it is. It doesn't work. All you must do to let go of the past is nothing at all, and simply allow it to disappear. Because it doesn't exist, ultimately. There is nothing actually there. There is nothing actually there. So let go. And to let go, you simply stop holding on. This is enormously relaxing. It takes no effort or energy at all. Now, in terms of the practice, if you find that you're finding it very difficult to stop your mind from pulling backwards into the past, this is where we can use our senses to ground ourselves in the present moment, and to simply look and observe everything around, and to feel the present without any interpretation or judgment or image attached to any of what we can observe. Because the reality of your life is now. That is the reality of your life. It has always been now, and it always will be now. So, you can simply, keeping your eyes open, observe and hear everything around you and feel the sensations in the body, the sensations of the breath, all of the sensations on your skin, and use the senses to simply ground yourself in the now. And if the mind starts to pull back, we simply don't follow the thought. No matter, and this will happen. What will happen is the mind will start to bring the memories and events that have the strongest emotional pull right in to the forefront of your mind. It will place it right there in front of you, because it's trying through habit, through the habit that has built up over time. The mind is trying to pull you back into that negative state of mind. And if you don't follow that thought, it simply dissolves. It's like if you're a fish swimming through the ocean and you become aware of all these hooks dangling down, and these hooks have delicious worms on them. You don't need to do anything in order to avoid getting caught. You simply need to ignore the hooks and ignore the worms. Just ignore it. Just ignore it and keep on swimming. And to keep on swimming, you simply connect with the body, the breath, the sounds around you, and all of the things that you can see, because all of these things are happening now. Everything that exists now, and this will always be true. Quite safe to do this. You won't forget any important data or anything like that. It simply doesn't work like that. Bring yourself into the now and just allow yourself that space. Allow yourself that freedom and that energy, because the past simply does not exist. Let's take a look at the future. Staying present is one of the most ancient practices for removing anxiety and lessening this tendency to worry and stress about future events. Anxiety and worry is a bit of a trade-off that we have for having a mind that is so analytical and so able to predict possible outcomes. Now, obviously, the mind, by which I mean here the neocortex, which is the analytical mind and is the information processing mind, the part of the mind that scans for threats and problems. And this neocortex has been the reason why we are so supposedly successful as a species, and yet it also, conversely, paradoxically, causes all of the problems for humans. So although it has been of enormous benefit, it also causes every single one of our problems, because the mind is a problem solver, and it is so good at its job that it often tries to solve problems that do not exist. So, staying present as an ancient practice, it is recorded in the oldest of the Sumerian tablets at the very dawn of civilization, and naturally, of course, it was something that was practiced in the hunter-gatherer and agrarian cultures before civilization came along. I mean, it's even recorded in the Bible, give no thought for the morrow. Watch the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I say unto thee, not Solomon in all his splendor is arrayed like one of these. Now, although that's very soothing language, it's also very arcane and archaic. So just to translate it into more modern terms, what he was saying there is, the next time you're worried about some future event, go and look at a flower. Go and observe the beauty of a flower and see that the flower does not worry. The flower does not stress. The flower does not think about tomorrow. And because of this, the flower is a beautiful thing that the universe has produced. The works of man cannot possibly compare to the simple beauty of a flower, and yet it did not have to worry or stress in order to achieve this. Now, doesn't this tell us something? Because there's a hidden complement to our anxiety, isn't there? And there's a hidden brag to being worried and stressed, because if I'm worried and stressed, then I'm working real hard and I'm striving to achieve my goals, and doesn't that make me such a fantastic person? So in some ways, there is a peculiar arrogance to anxiety, and that might not make a great deal of sense, but I invite you to stay with that for a while and try to understand the hidden compliment that you give yourself when you worry. Because if I'm worried, then I must be important, right? Sure. Now, again, let's get practical. We have to stay practical because we all have lives to lead. Firstly, anxiety is not a new problem. It is not something that the modern world has created. Anxiety has always been there. As long as we've had a neocortex, we've had anxiety. And it's quite natural. It makes total sense because the world is an incredibly threatening place. However, again, paradoxically, if we are continually worried about the future, the worry itself becomes dangerous. How crazy is that? And particularly in the modern world, the worry itself is a much bigger threat than anything that we could actually worry about. I mean, back in the day, we may have actually had more practical things to worry about, whereas now we're worried about emails coming in and worried about what people think of us. Simply nonsense. It's simply ridiculous, simply absurd that we can be under such psychological stress and turmoil over nothing. I mean, imagine that. The reason we have the anxiety and the worry is because we used to get eaten alive by wild beasts. That's why the anxiety is there, to protect us, to predict this happening, and so to avoid it. And yet now, we're worried about how people will perceive us because of our little Facebook post. Or we're worried about our performance at work if we don't hit these targets, and what if I don't sell enough burgers today, then my boss is going to be really annoyed with me. How absurd this is. How absurd. And it's important because suicide is the biggest killer of young people. How bad is that? And it can happen completely unnecessarily as these people are overtaken by their psychological pain and suffering. and see no other way out. Because the future appears so real and so threatening. It appears to be so important and daunting, and yet it does not exist. It simply does not exist. Where is it? Where is the future? Has it ever arrived? Did you ever wake up one day and you're 2 weeks in the future? Do you go to the future and then come back? It doesn't happen, so drop it. Drop all of the importance of your worry and stress. Because it will never happen. The future will never happen. I will say that again because it's important. If you truly wish to find peace, to find happiness in this life, you must understand that the future will never happen. I removed severe suicidal anxiety simply by recognizing this fact. Now, practically speaking, what about my plans? What about what I'm going to wear tomorrow? What about my shopping? And what about my ambitions and my goals? There are things I would like to change about my life. Are you saying, Corin, that I must simply drop all of my ambitions and my life goals? Nope, I'm not saying that at all. And thankfully you don't have to do this. However, have you ever noticed that even when you're planning for the future, making plans for how you'd like your life to go and all of this, it's all happening in the present moment? And have you ever been so anxious to get to the next moment, to get something over with, to get it done, or looking forward to a holiday or looking forward to something? Have you ever been stuck in this cycle of thinking that you completely miss the present moment? You can't relax, you can't enjoy today because you are constantly thinking of tomorrow. It is a very common psychological trap to get caught in, and it is the cause of untold pain. It takes discipline and takes practice to keep yourself grounded in the present moment. Now understand this. Staying fully present does not create an attitude of come what may and who cares, and you don't have ambitions for the future, and you don't make plans, and you don't save money, and you just go wandering through the roads without looking left and right because it's only the present moment, so there can't be any cars coming. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. And in fact, you find yourself becoming more responsible and safer as a result of staying present, because you're dropping all of the false worries and promises of the future, because your life happens now, which means everything that you can enjoy about life happens now. It can't happen in the future. Have you ever been really looking forward to something and then when it happens you actually don't really enjoy it as much? It's too much pressure. It's like you go on holiday to relax, and you've planned in the relaxation, and it doesn't really work like that. Or you've been so worried about an interview that you plan and plan and plan, and then you get to the interview and you completely crumble because your nerves were too high, you're sweating, it's too much pressure. If you just simply relax and stay present, and yes, of course, we need to prepare and we need to plan, but recognize that this too only happens in the present moment. And you can write your shopping list, and that happens in the present moment, and then put your shopping list away and enjoy your walk to the shops. In exactly the same way, this is how we can approach our goals for the future and our plans for the future. We set the destination, and then look after the ship. When sailing a ship, we set the direction we'd like to go in. We have a rough estimation of the time that we most likely will arrive, but it's going to be entirely dependent on the conditions of the sea. So this is where I would like to go. And if you'd like to get there quicker, you need to stop thinking about the destination and start thinking about the running of the ship. Now, doesn't that make more sense than endlessly planning? If you have a fitness goal or a weight loss goal, and this is this is my bread and butter, so I'll use it as an analogy. If you have a fitness and weight loss goal, you can't endlessly be thinking about what you'd like to look like or how much you'd like to weigh. You need to be involved in the practical element of preparing your food and focusing on each rep of the workout. Stop rushing, stop panicking, stop this frantic moving around. And keep it simple. Keep life simple. Do you really need all of these things that you strive for? I need a bigger house. I need a better I need a better partner. I need a better car. I need to do this. I need to do that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Simply open your eyes. Simply breathe. Simply observe all the beauty around you. The right course of action will come to you. You don't need to worry or stress. Your intuition will guide you to the place that is in your best interest. The mind often creates goals and ambitions that are the result of conditioning, not the result of your own natural intuition. So in staying present, we quieten the mind and we allow our natural intuition and our natural wisdom to guide us. There are many people striving, stressing themselves out, getting worried and depressed, chasing goals that ultimately will not satisfy them. They have been conditioned to chase a career, start a business, when really they'd be happier spending time with their family. Or there are people who desperately think they need to make money or find a partner or get laid or all of these things, when really they'd be much happier if they simply relaxed and enjoyed life as it is, and maybe spent a little more time on that passion that they have, that hobby, that joy, that craft that they have, because that is the natural gift that you arrived with. So in staying present, we drop this conditioning, this tendency to worry. Because worry and anxiety is put on you. Everybody knows what it feels like to be completely present, because we've all been children. And when you're a child and you're out and it's break time and you're playing and the sun is on your skin, you are just enjoying life as it is, playing with your friends, sun on the skin. And then the school bell goes and you have to go inside and sit in an uncomfortable chair and you have to write. And it's incredibly uncomfortable, physically and psychologically. And so you do not want to sit still. And this presents the teacher with a problem. How do I get them to sit still? Well, they have to ramp up the importance of this work. Because the future's coming. And if you don't work hard, the future's going to be just awful. And that's what we condition people to believe. It's simply absurd. Simply nonsense. most people have a natural inclination to work hard enough to sustain themselves and to enjoy their life. But unfortunately, we're all tied up with these crazy, lofty goals. We need to change the world. I need to become a CEO. Whatever it is that the universe puts in front of you as an occupation, do it with all your heart, no matter what it is. You might simply work in a shop. Well, do it with all your heart, and it will be the most rewarding and most fulfilling occupation on earth. Now, what do we do about worry? I'm worried about this happening. I'm worried about that happening. Well, I can't say that it won't. All of the most awful things imaginable could happen. They could. Who knows? Nobody knows. No one knows what's going to happen 5 seconds from now, let alone 5 years. And there's an infinite number of absolutely awful things that could happen, obviously. But in your life, does it ever happen? I mean, bad things may have happened, and even some bad things may have happened where you feel, well, if I'd have done a little more worrying, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Okay? But for the most part, this infinite number of horrors and terrors that the future holds is simply imagination. And isn't that curious? The future can only exist in your mind as imagination, as prediction, as anxiety, as a story. Just drop the story. What do I do about my anxiety? Well, stay present. Your life is happening now. Is anything awful happening now? I'll ask you this. Is anything terrible happening to you right now? And if you can answer no, then you have the greatest gift this universe can possibly provide. You have it all of it, right now, right now, right now. The greatest gift this universe could possibly provide. It's happening now. The miracle is happening now. And the mind will go, but this could happen, but this could happen, but this could... Okay, sure. But don't follow that thought. Don't follow it. Just observe now. Connect with the senses. Apply no judgment. Apply no opinion. Apply no belief. And you don't have to believe my words here. Look and see for yourself. You can experience this directly, experientially, right now. Look and see. Look and see. All of your questions about everything I've said so far can be answered by simply staying here. Breathe. Listen without judgment. Observe. What can you see? What can you feel? Even if certain things are unpleasant, maybe it's a little too cold, maybe your chair is a little uncomfortable, maybe there's roadworks outside. All of this, just allow. Yes, this too, this too, this too. Say yes to the present. Yes, accept, allow, and this, and this. No past, no future, just now, just now, just now. No past, no future, just this. Let it in, breathe it in. Observe, feel. This is your life. Because your life is not imagination. Your life is not worry and prediction. Your life is not rumination of the past. Your life is now. So that is past and future. Imagination only, drop it. Let the story go. This story is causing you so much pain, so much suffering, and yet ultimately that is all that it is, a story. The story of you. Close the book, put the book in the bin, and simply accept what is happening now. All of the beauty, the joy, and the love of the universe will flood in as you recognize that you have been held hostage by the past and the future, which ultimately is an illusion.